Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Josh Foreman. I do lots of creative stuff. Video game designer by day, maker of lots of other stuff also by day, and then sometimes by night. Writer of excellent fantasy adventure novels. If you're into that sort of thing, please check this out on Amazon today. What are we doing today? We are working on a dice tower that is entirely too large for its own good or for anyone's good. This is the base of it, and this is the tower of it, and it just kind of keeps going and going. So that's where we're at today. One of the things that I've been working on recently is trying to make this top section, or sorry, this bottom section and the top section slot together in a cool way. I was thinking it could like slot in like a cartridge on a console, you know. So I'm working on this sort of little edge slidey thing that I can pop in and out of like so. Originally I had it made out of foam, or I was working on it in foam. As you can see here, you know, foam is not the strongest material. You may be surprised to learn. And I thought if it's a part that is going to be getting moved and slid in and out of, it probably needs to be stronger than foam. So I had some of this molding laying around, and it's about the right size, and it has like this cool shape that seems to be something that you see in carved stone architecture. So I've been working with that now to create a more robust cartridge slot. What is this? Whatever this thing is. That thing. Yeah, so that's where we're at now. Thank you for the resub of 19 months, Valandar the Red. You've got a big dice tower too. I'm glad to hear it's not as big as mine, because it's just really pointless at this size. No one's gonna use it. No one wants to stand up when they roll dice and like walk over to a giant device. Maybe if you're fighting a boss, you know, maybe then it's worth it, but yeah, so I'm hoping to get this part kind of in place today, and then I also have a bunch of work to do on all the other bits and bobs, because this base of the dice tower is not going to be alone. It's going to be on a kind of a larger plaza, because obviously the tower is so huge, you can't just like count on it to stand on this little base. So it's going to be attached to a larger base, and so I have all of these parts that have gone through the base coat, the medium coat, what do we end up calling it, a sludge coat, and and I've got this wash that we're going to be putting over it when the time is right. The color variations have been added, and then a clear coat has been sprayed over it. So the next step is where things really start getting fun. That's right, hooray for Sledge Coat. Name of my next band. Another thing that I did, because I'm bad at maths, I sculpted over the corners of this building here, because there were two different angles that were going on. Like, this front sloping angle is less than the side sloping angle, and when I tried to line all the blocks up, it broke my brain, my sad little artist brain. And so what's the solution to a mathematical problem you can't solve? Giant blobs of clay is the answer. So I just put giant blobs of clay, and now I'm going to carve them down and make sure that they kind of blend into the bricks around them. If you dice a tower with lids that are 13 to 16 inches tall. That's pretty impressive. But it can still sit on a table, right? That's the important part. Being that these are typically used with tabletop gaming, it's nice to have things on the top of your table. Mine literally like keeps bumping into stuff when you put it on top of the table. So I put this clay on, let's see, on last night's stream, so it hasn't even had 24 hours to cure, so it's still a little bit gummy. So I may have to come back to this later. I just want to make sure that it's going to serve my needs. Trying to think, like, if I'm moving my blade across that angle, and then of course directly towards my throat, that's the important part. Make sure that the blade is always getting hung up and pointed directly towards your throat. I think this blade is not particularly sharp right now, so it's not doing the superest of jobs. Exactly. Cut towards yourself, and when you're throwing a knife to a friend, that's the only time you want to throw it blade forward. Also, welcome into V's, welcome Tavares, welcome AJ Baki. AJ Baki is also a fantasy novelist, and she has a blurb, written a blurb for the back of my book. Very kind of her. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for these to set up a little bit more so I can do more with the sanding and less with the blade. Also, I just need to replace my blades. But I kind of don't want to get sidetracked on that kind of stuff right now because I'm trying to make a little bit larger progress. It's always easy to like zoom back in and address other stuff, but getting the like overall composition figured out earlier rather than getting hung up on details, because often you'll find that your overall composition isn't so great, and if you've sunk a lot of time in the details, then emotionally you're going to be very resistant to changing the composition, and that's how you end up with not quite as great art, just by being resistant to iteration. Okay, so on these little guys I have these Crafter's Best Friend Wiggle Eyes, not googly eyes, you guys, Wiggle Eyes, and I put these little like rubber gasket O-ring things you can get in, I don't know, I got them at a hardware store, and glued that on. So right now it looks really weird, but after it's painted and such, it will just look like embossed sort of, well, I guess it's called a bossed stone. Stones that kind of stick out and have, although, well, technically it's not sticking out because it's going to be in this gap. So it's like been carved down and this part has been less carved. And I'm currently competing for the world's messiest crafter right now. So like I have this tiny little area that is semi-cleared, and this is all I have to work with. I always work until I reach the threshold where I'm like, I'm losing every tool. The second I put it down, the tool is lost. And then I finally just break and I have to spend a day cleaning and organizing. But today is not that day. Right now I'm trying to think of the best way to get this seated in the middle, inside of there, and ideally not have hot glue strands. I love hot glue because it's instant, practically instant. I hate it because it leaves little strands everywhere, which you can often melt away with a little lighter, but if the flame gets too close to foam, then it distorts the foam. So Bug Lips, thank you for 20 months of subscription here on Reaper Minis. Collarbone is almost healed. Yay! How's things going, Bug Lips? That's right, full inches. Here in America, we got inches of real estate. Okay, so I guess what I could do is I could put a glob of hot glue, pull the strand off, and then with tweezers place this in. I think that will accomplish what I need to accomplish. The next question is, do I paint these up first before placing them? And actually, I think that brings up an important lesson, because here's the thing. You know, all these little round bits are placed on by eye and approximated. Are they centered? It's hard to tell when it's on clear plastic, especially when there's a freaking googly disc underneath it that makes it even harder to tell. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint these first before I go and place them into these guys. I'm trying to think if there's any other parts that I should be painting while I've got the base coat out. I guess I can go ahead and do the pink on this part at this point. Just gotta excavate all of my googly eyes. Oh, here's one that I did a little bit of base coating on, so you can see it's less googly eye-ish, but also it's not really centered very well. I guess at this angle it's kind of hard to tell, and maybe that's the thing, like if it's slightly lower on one side than the other, then depending on where I place it in its little socket, as long as it's somewhat consistent, then it's probably fine and won't be noticeable. That's my hope anyway. We're gonna find out. Okay, so how many do I need? I've got 4 holes here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Nice. That means I'll have extra because I assume some of these are not going to be acceptable up to my centered quality standards. Let's get a little focus here. Mod Podge with just black black house paint dye in it. Not the paint itself, just the dye that you paint, that you add to the house paint. Things are going not bad for bug lips. Good. Or not bad. You know, there's a lot of badness out there. And so it's always nice when you don't have to share much of it. Everyone has some of it, you know. So yeah, the other good thing about painting these up is I can get around the backside to, you know, it's, once it's in its little slot, you're probably not going to notice if there's a little bit of white on the back. But if it's creeping up around the edge, sometimes it becomes noticeable at certain angles, and you'll be surprised. I don't want to be surprised by that. All right. Let's trying to think of a place I can set this where it can dry without. Here we go. I have no idea what this is. I found it at a Goodwill, and it's like, oh, that's a pretty cool texture. I could use that for something. In this case, I think I can use it as a drying rack for my eyes. Look at that, beautiful. Why not PVA glue? Because there's slight differences. I don't even know if I can articulate the difference between like if I was going to use a different glue besides Mod Podge, it would be wood glue actually. It's like the properties of the little bit of shell or skin that it creates, and the self-leveling properties are different. White glue tends to run more than wood glue or Mod Podge. I think that may literally just be the reason. No need to overthink it there. I think it's because white glue runs more. Even if it's thick to begin with, because you know, there's different PVAs have different thicknesses. And I've used thick PVA in the past and been disappointed at how runny it got. I recently ordered a 64-ounce Mod Podge jug. You can't get them in the stores at Michael's, but you can order them online, so that's what I did. Now, one of the problems with using found objects in conjunction with foam like this is that you can beat up the foam by just, you know, tearing at it, stabbing at it, rolling foil over it, etc. You can't do that to bits of plastic. It doesn't give you the same effect. So one of the challenges when it comes to making everything marry together is making sure that you have techniques. So for instance, this is wood. I can't carve this the same as I do, but I used a Dremel to kind of dig away at areas, and then I added globs of, in this case, it was Freeform Air, which is a product from Smooth On, but you can also use spackling, really any kind of thick, globby substance that you can sand afterwards. So those are other ways to essentially perturb the surface in a way that's similar to what you end up with when you're hacking away at foam. Bathroom shower anti-slip mat. Maybe that's what it is. I honestly don't even know. This hanging next to, I feel like it was in the kitchen area. It might be a heat protector thing, maybe, for putting hot pans and stuff on. But for all I know, it would just melt if you did that. All right, AJ Bucky, have a good afternoon. You use a mix of tacky and Elmer's everything. Okay. I don't know if I've ever used Elmer's everything glue. I do have some tacky. I don't know if I've ever tried that. I tried several varieties in my little test board here. Let's see, so I used wood glue, Gorilla Glue, PVA. I used several others, but those were the ones that were the most successful that I, bothered to keep around on my little reference board. What percentage of my bloodstream is Mod Podge? I would guess that more of it is actually Pepsi Max than Mod Podge. So Tyveris, tell me, what are the different projects that you use the different materials for? I'm curious. Is it, a playable surface versus just a diorama versus, yeah, what? Tell me why you would use these different materials. Okay, now I've got a dozen to choose from, so hooray for that. Now here's the question, can I actually move this out of my way without losing? Oh man, I really should have prepared a place to put them first. Alright, I think it made it to my 12-inch square flat spot on my floor that is uncluttered currently. So for Wargaming Hills, for basing, yeah, running out of space. That's quite the common dilemma for us crafty types, isn't it? Under the chair, no. I have a rolling chair, so that would be a supremely bad place to put it. Yeah, I have some foam coat. Styroplast. Do I have styroplast? I don't know if I have that. That's like the kind of shell coating you can put over it. That's a. I think it's a little more like a wood glue in that it makes a pretty, like almost a shellacked sort of shell on the surface. Yeah, isn't it such an amazing feeling after you've cleaned your work area? It's just like possibilities are limitless. And then, you know, within a day and a half, it's pretty much almost back to where it was in my case. So I'm going to be traveling down to the Oregon coast this afternoon. In fact, right after this stream. I live in the Seattle area, and it's about a 6-7 hour drive to get down there. Visiting the in-laws for the first time in 3 years. But while I'm there, I'm going to be filming some footage for my next book trailer, and I'm curious. I want to hear, has anyone watched a book trailer before? Does anyone know what a book trailer is? Because I've run into many people who don't, who hear the concept and are like, what in the world is that? And why would that even exist? Because I'm curious how many people watch them, how many people enjoy them, how many people have made purchasing decisions based on them. Because apparently it happens. I mean, publishers pay for these things to be made, so there must be a reason. You just watched the newest R.A. Salvatore trailer on Monday. Okay. Man, I didn't even know he's still writing for some reason. I mean, why wouldn't he be, right? He was a staple of mine back in my high school days, which was the early 90s. So he's been at it for quite a while, hasn't he? Yeah, the thing I did on my last book trailer was I started it with a live action shot of like a first person perspective going towards this sort of shrine looking thing with an altar in it. It's just in a local park at a some kind of a Catholic college or something near me, and it's just a really cool looking spot. You know, I dressed it up with ivy and stuff like that, and nestled my book in there. So it's like walking up to the book, and then my hand, you know, comes out and opens the book, and then that's when the first illustration kind of pops off the page and flies up into the screen, and then the narration begins telling you about the book. And so I thought, hey, it'd be cool if each of the books had a different sort of, you know, if the book trailer kind of followed that theme of, you know, first person going towards the book, sitting in some kind of exotic location that is evocative of an area from the book. And it just so happens that we're going to be on the Oregon coast, you know, Pacific Northwest coast, and our hero Beaumark jumps ship and runs adrift on land on a Pacific Northwest style biome, more or less. So, yeah, good coincidence. I figure I might as well get some footage while I'm there. Plastic shell over the foam once it's hardened. Styroplast is incredibly tough. Okay. Your Tatooine buildings? Nice. I should give it a try. I don't... Oh, yeah, I really should. So Mac Attack and Thrashorama have both seen book trailers. Okay, good to know. Think of book trailers as a storyboard for the books as opposed to pitching movies. Okay. Yeah, see, I have the advantage, I guess you could say, of having heavily illustrated books. Like each of my books have 70 plus illustrations and maps and stuff like that. So it's very easy for me to throw a bunch of pretty pictures at the screen for my book trailer. I don't have to go through a bunch of elaborate extra steps of, like, I don't know, getting actors to stand in cool poses and cool locations with, you know, costumes that have to be made and that sort of thing. Or the Ken Burns effect, where you just have a single image and you slowly pan back and forth over it, add some camera shake and some, like, embers floating in the foreground. That seems to be what a lot of them opt for as well. What is Salvatore's new book about? Does he still work in the D&D universe? Or is he doing his own stuff? Obviously, I'm working off of 30-year-old information at this point. 2-month pot life. Wow. A new Drizzt book. Okay. He did a bunch of other, like, I remember his book, was it Catterley? Like a mage wizard guy had a pet squirrel or something. I know he's done other stuff as well, so just, I assume he hasn't done only Drizzt for the past 30 years. get our secondary shelf in place. I might as well just attach that and paint it right now. Where'd my other computer? Actually, I should also, just to be super sure, let's get the tower base on there. Looks like it needs a little more space in the sides there. He did one of the D&D movie scripts. One of the movies that actually got made. Man, I seem to recall them. Every D&D movie I've seen being really bad. Although, you can't always chalk that up to the script, but usually you can. Also, you never know when someone writes an amazing script and then the money people get involved and essentially ruin it. I have a friend who does creature design in Hollywood, and he's just eternally salty about all of his designs getting watered down and ruined before they get to the actual screen. Yeah, I seem to remember hearing something about a new D&D. What are the deets? What do we know? Do we know anything about it yet? It's like, it's one of those things where you could literally do almost anything. Like, how many generic fantasy movies have been made at this point? Any of which could have easily been a Dungeons and Dragons movie. You know, with minor alterations. But it is apparently very difficult for whoever's tried it in the past. Oh, sorry, I've been working out of frame. Keeps getting delayed, yeah. Name of the King. That was... What was that? That was fairly recent, right? Now do we have breathing room? That's the important thing. We need a little breathing room. if I do. Okay. All right. Beautiful. And then we've got this guy. This guy. And this guy. Yeah. 2 hours left on the print for the Party Paladin. Oh, try number 4. That's never fun, is it? Yeah, I still have to redesign this 4-sided dice that I'm developing for to sell in my shop. The first one ended up just like being too delicate, and it would break when you rolled it because it has like bells on the tips of it. And so, yeah, I have to go do a full redesign, reprint, remold, recast. Grr. David Lynch was mad about the Dune Final Cut. Not surprising. Yeah, I mean, large projects that require lots of input and lots of funding are inevitably going to have lots of artistic compromise for a variety of reasons. And that's just very frustrating for people who have like really specific visions like I do, which is why like I'm developing my own IP and I will never sell it. I will never, you know, I don't care if HBO comes at me with $1 million or $10 million. No, you can't do it. I'm doing it. Just has to, I just have to have the one, you know, massive hit that makes it so I'm like as rich as J.K. Rowling, and I am going to fund it myself. That's all there is to it. It's just not worth it to me. I would not care about being rich, but then having this thing I've worked my entire life on have some like stupid version of it out there. The counter argument is always, well, take those millions of dollars and just make a new thing. And great point. I don't know how to counter that, except for the fact that I've been working on this IP for like literally my entire adult life, 25-ish years. I ain't got time to make another one. There's not that much life left. Unless I become a lich. Maybe I should look into becoming a lich. Huh, okay. And so now that it's got the breathing room, I need these guys to be a little bit wider, maybe? Hey, let's see, Maharun. Sorry, my contacts are not doing a great job of letting me see little words at a distance. Thank you for the raid with the party of 6. Appreciate it. All right, so do I redo? Well, let's see. First of all, do I have a piece I can redo it? Yes, I do. So I can make one that sticks out a little bit further. Just fine. Because I want a little bit of an overhang, since I have an overhang on this side, which I realize it's hard to see because with the paint on there, it's like pure black. Trust me, there's a little bit of an overhang there, and it looks cool, and I want to maintain that. Sexiest word in Hollywood for a writer to tell a studio is no. Yeah. Agree. It's not because any person or company or whatever is particularly bad or evil or stupid. It's just that's what the system necessitates. When a piece of media requires millions of dollars to create, you're gonna have multiple incentives from many different angles that you have to appease. And I'm just not interested in doing that. This is literally, it is. Dang it. Fine, fine. So I think I made these 1 inch, yeah. Yeah, so let's go a little more than an inch. So I moved that in probably about a 1/4 inch. So let's just do 1 1/4 inches. Beastmaster, the movie, was based on the book. I did not know there was a Beastmaster book. Yeah, that happens so often, right? Where the script writer is just like, they take the initial premise and just do something completely different with it. It's like, what will be? It's not even worth asking what was wrong with the book, right? Because the answer is always, well, it's not going to play well for the movie as a movie. Different mediums have different strengths, blah, blah, blah. I believe that different mediums have different strengths. However, I also believe that it is possible, and I hope to prove this by actually doing it, that you can make a film that is 100% faithful to the book. It doesn't have to show every single thing in the book. It doesn't have to, and it can show other things that were not in the book, right? But it doesn't have to contradict the book. It doesn't have to blend characters. It doesn't have to like change what character says what. You know, it's like all these changes that are made for the sake of the movie or TV show, I honestly think don't need to be made. But again, as a theory, just a game theory, it's up to me to prove it. And that's what I plan to do. Super Mario Brothers movie has more in common with the game than Beastmaster. Yeah, a Game of Thrones or you know, Song of Ice and Fire movie, that would just be a disaster. What would even be the point? Honestly, anything but short stories, I don't think there's a point in adapting them to film. I think it's so stupid. Now that we have premium television and the ability to make movie quality effects and acting and et cetera on TV, there's seriously just no point in movies from adaptations of film. Short stories, great. Novels, no. Stop it. Nope. I should probably do this halfway rather than at a set number. What is this? This is 6 inches. So, okay, yeah, I should do it at 3 inches. Nope, just kidding. It's 5.5 inches. which would be 2 3/4. Philip K. Dick was a gold mine in Hollywood. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would have been nice if any of the movies based on his work were more faithful to his work. Although it's understandable to some degree, but yeah, I don't know. Like, but yeah, a lot of movies based on his work were good movies. I'd rather see GRRM. Oh, anthology series he edited. Wild Cards become a TV series. Okay, I've not seen that or heard of it. He edited an anthology. Okay. Bad novelizations of movies. Yeah. That would be easy to do. Please do not fall down, my dear tower. Andre Norton, writer of Beastmaster. When did that book? Was that like a book from the 70s or 60s or something? So the Beastmaster movies were 80s, right? Like late 80s? Interesting how far this one sticks out over the edge. Oh, I guess they both do. Okay, I just need to either make this front piece longer or close the gap with another piece. This is annoying because I already did the center line. If I move it over to one side or the other, to like, so that I only have one corner that I would need to fill, then it makes it offset. Let's see, I could split it. Oh, yeah, that's what I'll do. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar and add a little interim brick there. Interstitial brick. 59, okay. It was ahead of its time. I'm going to guess it was Conan inspired. Tell me if I'm right or wrong about that. I'm going to guess that at no point does the Beastmaster end up in Hollywood in the year 1987 and drive by a movie theater that is playing Beastmaster on it. I'll bet that doesn't happen in the books. That broke my brain when I saw that. Similar to the way Gremlins 2 broke my brain when I saw that. I was not ready for fourth wall breaking at that period of my life. To be honest, I'm probably still not, in most cases. Okay, so that's in the middle. I can glue that. This thing is just annoying the snot out of me that it keeps like wanting to pop up. Let's see if we can fix that. I'm guessing it's because this little strip here is a little too big for its britches. Is there something I can do about that? Cutting that rubber would be very difficult, but cutting this foam would be very easy. Put a gargoyle. That's not a bad idea. I don't know if I have any gargoyles laying around. I've got a Reaper's miniature manticore, but I already painted that all nice and realistic. Okay, let's see if this will work. Not at all Conan-ish. Returning from sci-fi military. Okay, Agri-World uses the cybernetically linked animals to help propel an invasion of his new home. Oh, that sounds interesting. High-tech twist on the old, where's this hidden? Yeah, that does sound a bit ahead of its time, doesn't it? Why wouldn't they do that? Oh, I know why. Budget. Now, no, you're still gonna be bouncy for me. What more can I possibly do from a little stone to make it no bounce? I need it to be a no bounce stone. Okay, come on, I'm moving my fingers so you can snap out. There you go. There we go. Yay! That took way longer than it should have. Okay, now we can put our little no gargoyle stone here. So it's not that the book was influenced by Conan, the movie was influenced by the movie Conan. Yeah, okay. I'm using all all temp hot glue. I just have it set to about medium. All right. It is new blade time. I've suffered long enough. I've got some beast mastery type of characters, a sentient species in my Tales from Talifar series that they like evolved to control larger critters. They themselves are about the size of small cats, and but they have large, enlarged. What is the big toe called? Big toes. Let's call it that. Their big toe is enlarged and kind of spatulate, so it can loop into the nostrils of creatures and exude various pheromones that they kind of learn to create through a mixture of training program with the creatures and making essentially potions, not magic potions, but um, so they can metabolize the chemicals necessary to elicit the different emotional responses that they need from their mounts in order to get them to do all sorts of things that a normal um, uh, beastie would not do. All right, Mag Attack, thanks so much for hanging out. I will certainly enjoy my drive. Probably be listening to some Oathbringer audiobook. Trying desperately to follow along with the 873 characters. Oh man, I really could have slapped on a quick layer of this Mod Podge before I glued these down. Would have saved me a little bit of trouble. But hey, trouble saved is trouble earned, right? I don't know, that could be a saying. $872 is your character limit. Yeah, I'm definitely driven to my character limit with those books. Much easier to read, but I have trouble with character names to begin with. When I read fantasy novels, you know, the ones that have many characters, I literally have a like 4x3 card that I use as a bookmark, and I just write down characters as they're introduced and physical features that are mentioned, you know, the stuff you need to know about them when they are brought up again. That's literally, I have to treat it like a homework assignment or I cannot follow. So it's extra challenging in audiobook form where you don't have like on TV you have a visual face to connect it to, right? And an audiobook you just kind of have to know, have to have the memory. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of that myself. Just I'll get to the end of the book and I keep hoping that enough context clues will be dropped that I'll like get a clue. Um, Sometimes I do, and often I don't, and so I just am confused the whole time. So I may be forced to go back and read through it, the actual physical book, which I also have. But you know, it's a matter of priorities. How many things can I do in my life? Okay, I think we've got all that base coat down. Let's see how our googly eyes are doing. I'll bet they can totally accept a first pass at a gray. Nicknames for the characters of Game of Thrones. I didn't start watching Game of Thrones until season 2 or 3 had come out. Not that I started on season 2 or 3. I started on season 1, but I didn't have HBO for most of the run. So I had heard the names of many of the characters, but had no direct experience with them. And for whatever reason, I had in my head that Littlefinger was going to be the little person, right? It just made sense. So Tyrion Lannister, I was so confused because I kept you know, when they're talking about other characters that aren't in the room, they would talk about Littlefinger, and in my head, I was thinking they were talking about Tyrion, and vice versa. Uh, so I was confused through much of season 1 because of a stupid assumption. It's a little like being MacGyver. If MacGyver had the option to go to Michael's and order off Amazon whenever he wanted to, which I imagine would make the show slightly less interesting. Littlefinger is the worst character name. Let me see if I can think of a worse character name from Game of Thrones. I mean, there's some really great ones, like the Mountain, or is it the Hound? Is his brother the Hound, right? Oh, that's funny. I literally threw away a container with the gray paint color that I need, but it's been sitting out for several days. However, I also feel like it might not even matter if you just break the surface a little bit for the purpose of just getting my sludge coat on here. And actually might be advantageous to have the really thick sludgy paint because it'll get me a little more stone texture. I can imagine, because MacGyver episodes were fairly procedural, I could imagine that there would be a scene in almost every episode where he's trying to get his coupon to work, or he's got an expired 50% off coupon and he's trying to convince them to let him use it. I don't care how many embassies are about to be destroyed. This coupon's expired. For some reason, most of the Michael's cashiers I get are like the admissions lady from Monsters Inc. Or wait, was she admissions? No, she was. What was she? She the paycheck? Like, did she do the payroll? I don't know, but she had the New York smoker's voice. Those are the people I always get at Michael's. How are these fireworks not seasonal? Sorry, but fireworks are perennial. They can be used for any occasion. I don't know why Michael's would have fireworks. They'd probably have little sparklers or something. Did she have spider legs? I thought the boss had spider legs. I thought she was more like a slug shape. Someone needs to research this stat. We need to get these facts straight. There will be no more slandering of Monsters, Inc. A film that I saw once when it came out in theaters and have never seen again. No, that's not true. I'll bet I saw it again when my kids were little. And I'm pretty sure I saw the sequel too. Is it Monsters U? And I seem to remember thinking it was good. Like, there was a time when Pixar could do no wrong. Like, every film was amazing. And it was like, how do you keep doing this? And then they stopped doing it. They made Cars, and they were like, here you go, it's Cars, but they got faces. And then they were like, hey, little boys like cars. We're gonna make 5 more of these movies. It was all downhill from there. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last Pixar movie that... Oh, I saw... Wait. And now I can't... Like, the difference between Pixar and Disney is almost 0. So, like, I don't even know who did what. I saw Soul. That was recent. And it was fine. It was good. They're making a TV show about Monsters, Inc. Huh. I didn't know they made a Planes show. But, like, I couldn't handle Cars. I could not handle Cars. For the stupidest reason. It's the world building. Like, I couldn't get past this idea that geological formations are shaped like cars, and insects are shaped like cars, and they don't have arms and legs, but they use equipment that, like, machinery that would have to be made by someone with arms and legs. And again, brain breaking right there. I just couldn't even. Soul was an awesome movie, by the way. Okay, good. Good to hear. I certainly enjoyed it more than most, you know, of the last CG movies I've seen over the past 10 years or so. Okay, well, now that these are gray, I'm wondering if I can actually start blopping them in to the holes, because it would be awesome to get these done in, well, I'd say I got another 10 minutes here. Because now I can make out their shape really well. And I can pick out the ones that are the most centered and put them front facing. Let's see, so I was... So sticky. Be less sticky. This is my less sticky wand. Okay. It doesn't work very well, in case you're wondering. Let's see, so I'm gonna unglove. That's what I'm gonna do. Cars merch was keeping Pixar solvent. Yeah, that sounds right. Which Muppet movie? The original Muppet movie? As a kid born in the 70s, that one is definitely my jam. But it seems like it'd be way too slow for most people these days. Yeah, to this day, despite the fact that, you know, I mostly listen to metalcore and black metal and death metal, one of my favorite songs ever is Rainbow Connection. Someday we'll find it. I'm also very bad at impressions, in case you didn't pick up on that. It is a great song. One of our yearly Christmas movies is Muppet Christmas Carol. Ooh, I wonder if I should actually, you know what, I really should. I should paint really dark gray back here. And then, but I don't need to do it in the middle. There I can do my glob of, or no, that's right, I'm putting my glob of glue on the actual dots slash eyeballs. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. Oh yeah. Speaking of death metal, I think that's where I got my taste for death metal. Like, it didn't even exist at the time. They pretty much invented death metal. I mean, not Emmett Otter, but the evil band that they were going up against, right? Come on now. Why does tape have to be so sticky? Okay, and I forgot what I was doing because I had a big brain moment. Is I was folding this over before I tore it off, and then I went back to micro brain. Have you seen the outtake from Emmett Otter where it's a scene where I want to say like the music store shopkeeper is throwing the Muppet out the door, but they do it like it's just like all the outtakes, so it's them throwing this poor little puppet out like over and over and over again. It's hilarious. We don't brush our teeth because our toothbrushes help us sneer. Toothaches, not toothbrushes. Sorry, contacts again. River Bottom Nightmare Band, yeah. They had a, what did the fish play? There was a fish in a tank, right? And he would like pop out and spit at the audience. I think the singer was a wolf. I want to say one of them was a snake. Okay, cool. pile this gray into the corners. Beautiful. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful? I mean, hopefully you have. Be a pretty depressing life if this was the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen. In which case, I apologize for bringing up how bad your life is. Aesthetically impoverished, at least, at the very least. But perhaps it's compensated in other ways. Maybe you have a very loving family and live in a... Oh, well, I guess you couldn't really live in a beautiful location. A safe location? A financially stable location? Man, so sorry, Quindy. I'm also a fan of the goth aesthetic. Sadly, my favorite kind of music is probably goth metal, which might be the worst kind of music, but you know, it doesn't keep it from being my favorite. Virgin Black, favorite band ever. Alright. I think that's all we need to, like, make sure that the where the stones are touching in there is nice and coated so that it's not going to just be a pure black void. It's okay to have black spots, but we don't want pure black voids. And we're going to do practice on, which is the, okay, this is the non-camera face. So we're going to practice on this one first. And we're going to use our most asymmetric ones, which would be probably this one. And who else is a little cockeyed? This one. Sad traditional goth, post-punk, whatever. Yeah. And look at that. One lesson already learned. But I am happy that I have a couple moments to kind of reposition as needed. And what's also cool is because this is like taped in, if it's really botched up, I could just pull the tape off, you know, reposition it, and then put the tape back in place. Okay, so I think the thing I want to do is make sure I have the top located, and then press it straight down. Yeah. Okay. Okay, now this, I could see this being the most beautiful thing a person has ever seen. Okay, next most cockeyed award goes to this little guy. Oh wait, actually no. No, I don't need to use any more cockeyed boys because I only have 2, 4, 6, 7. I can pick the 7 least cockeyed amongst the group. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guess we'll go for this guy next. Okay. You're welcome for upgrading you. All that garbage that just appeared on the screen is because I'm recording some of these steps for my video. I'll be putting a video of this, building this dice tower on my YouTube channel when it's done. That's called synergy, my friends. Strategic synergy. Speaking of which, we are at our hour and a half, which has become the tradition for me, given that I still have work to do today and I need to drive to the coast. Now would be a good time to start queuing up a raid. Get ready to go. I really wanted to have this assembled for you guys at the end of this episode. Alas, them's be the dangers of crafting. So, closing spiel. Buy my book, please, The Scarred King, Book 1, Exile, available on Amazon today on ebook and paperback. Paperback is cool because you get to see the illustrations larger than on your little Kindle. And there are a lot of illustrations and maps and blah, blah, blah. Characters are shown. This helps me, like I was saying. I have trouble with character names. So, I helped myself a little there. Follow me on all the various links that are being shared. And thanks for hanging out, everyone. I'm just going to finish gluing these as we do our raid.